Hello there, everyone. It is Melanie Browning again with another Spotlight interview. Tonight, I have the pleasure of introducing you to those that may not know him. I don't know where you've been, if you don't know him already, but the amazing award-winning filmmaker Joseph DeGolyer. And it's just going to give him a couple minutes to jump on here and get the invitation sent out. Well, hello, everyone, for joining us here. I appreciate you joining in. I see you there. Let me get you the invite over. If that worked there. I'm excited about this one. There you are.
Uh-oh, not hearing you yet.
You don't hear me?
Make sure.
Let me see. For those of you watching, can you guys hear me? If so, say yes. I can hear you. You can. Okay.
Let's try this. Okay. For whatever reason,
I
my
can hear
Bluetooth isn't
you.
working.
Okay. Well, we can. Let me see. Okay.
Is it echoey for you, or is this gonna work?
I can hear you.
Okay.
You can't hear me, right?
I can hear
Oh,
you
okay. We're
right now.
good to go then.
Okay.
Good to go.
Cool.
Awesome. Well, welcome. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
And I appreciate you jumping on your phone. I know you like to do things in your nice setup and that you have everything set up the way that you want. So thank you for joining me on this kind of wonky platform here. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm excited to be here. How's Arizona?
Oh my goodness, I'm loving it. Especially like all the posts I'm seeing from Utah. Like it looks like I just missed like the blizzard of the century. So I'm
Every
sorry,
weekend.
guys, that I'm not there to help you plow, but
Yeah, it's been a crazy winter. I mean, we've had a couple of we've had I don't know, 7 years of really not that much snow, and I feel like we've just made up for all of it. So
Yep.
yeah.
Yep. We did get snow where I'm at. We're higher elevation, so it snowed. Like it had a lot here, but it's nothing compared to Utah. So, yep.
I moved down to Cedar City, thinking the climate would be similar to what's 40 minutes away, which is St. George, which is like lower elevation. It's in the Mojave. It's really hot. And I just assumed it would be like a perpetual summer. And then I moved to Cedar City, and it's the coldest place on earth. I know someone. There's a town up north in northern Utah called Logan, which is famous for being really cold and lots of snow. I have a person at work. There's a person at work who is from Logan, and I asked him how it compared, and he said, "Oh, it's about the same."
Yeah, I remember Cedar City when we were moving up there. We moved up in February of '05, and it was kind of similar, I think, to the year that you guys had. But I remember heading up there when we hit Cedar City. It was like that was the worst of it. It was just the whiteout conditions. I don't know why they didn't shut the freeway down, but it was like we got off there and people were just like, oh, like this crazy. But that was my memory of Cedar City, of just like there's snow everywhere. It was pretty intense.
I mean, if there's not snow, there's wind. So.
Yeah. Well, that's all of Utah.
I don't know. I grew up in Utah for the most part, and this is the worst weather. And it was that I felt that way last year too, when we didn't have a crazy winter. I was like, gosh, it's cold and it's windy, and I don't know.
That's funny. Well, I see that you're getting all around, like doing all these amazing outdoor activities, pretty much all around the state and possibly other places. How does that tie into like the filmmaking process? Because I know I got to meet you from the 13th Cross, your first feature film. What are you doing now, like with the outdoor adventure? What I guess led down to that path and got you into that?
I was just looking for a job. So that's really, I mean, I've always loved the outdoors. My dad used to take me camping all the time and backpacking with like the Boy Scouts and stuff like that. I'm an Eagle Scout, so there has been a lot of camping, and I used to work like when I was 18 or 19. I worked for the Boy Scouts, and we were out there up in the mountains, and I was teaching merit badges and doing like sort of like wilderness survival uh, nights with the boys, and so I've always loved the outdoors. And for me, it was like if I could not get a career going in film, I would probably be trying to, although it's just as hard to get into, I would be trying to get jobs at like the national parks or something like that, because I really do love the outdoors. So my job at Outdoor Vitals, which is like a direct-to-consumer backpacking gear company, it's kind of the best of both worlds. I get to make a whole bunch of videos and occasionally make like documentary style videos, and at the same time, I get to be paid to go out and camp and hike, and that's a lot of fun.
And that's like being able to, I follow some of your platforms. Like it feels like from the outside looking in that you do like so many different things. And I mean, I know you do, but it's funny because like a lot of like I've studied a lot of different success things and principles and along those lines. And I watch you in that from the outside, it feels like you do a lot of those success things, but oftentimes I'm like, how does he do so much of those things? Because like if you're not, you know, learning Spanish or practicing guitar or on your podcast or just all of these different things, I'm wondering what it is, like how you're able to do so many things and so well. That's the really surprising part, because, you know, if you start something, it's like, I can't wait to see, you know, what it's going to be like in a couple months even.
You know, how do I answer that question? Thank you, by the way. Let's see. I think I generally have like, I know it's not seen a lot, but the majority of my free time is spent working on movie stuff, so filmmaking. I do have like 9,000 hobbies, and it's been a problem. So like the podcasting has been a very long ongoing hobby. I started studying Spanish like really intensely when COVID hit, because it was just something to do. Yeah, everything else is just a hobby. It's all secondary to the filmmaking for me. Although the podcasting does take up a lot of time, and I've been slowly trying to like cull that back a little bit, because I would like to focus more on things that I think are a little bit more important, that I'm a little better at. So I do a lot of writing.
Yeah.
is what I'm doing. That's not public, like I don't share that stuff.
Gotcha. It says, who is this? Julik? I can't even, that's Instagram tags. I'm sorry if I'm butchering you. But he says, you've been doing it since college that you don't sleep. So that's the secret, is you don't sleep. That's awesome. And the other thing that really, really inspires me about you, and is I know if you start something that it's going to get finished some way or another. And that's, you know, when I met you on the 13th Cross, just being able to watch the process, having a little bit more insight, I think, than just the general public, of kind of a little bit of behind the scenes of what was going on. It seemed like, you know, I mean, it was your first feature film, and, you know, there were a lot of different hiccups, which I know most movies have along the way, but each time you would find a way to keep going, and you would pivot, and you would do this. And I was just impressed every time you would update the team on what was moving forward and what, you know, what we could expect, that not only you kept us in the loop, that was like amazing, but how like you were able to just keep going and moving forward. What do you think that is in you that allows you to do that?
I think I almost think like it's a bit of a flaw sometimes. Like, for example, I've been doing this Final Fantasy podcast because I liked a couple of Final Fantasy games. I had friends, we would talk about Final Fantasy, and then we decided to start a podcast randomly together. And it ended up being the longest project ever, as we slowly beat 51 of these mostly horrible games. Now, some of them are quite good. That's why we started the show. But then we were like, no, we're going to beat every single one of these games and then talk about it. And so I think it's a bit of guilt, I think. Like, not only like cast and crew on say 13th Cross or something like that, but like the podcast audience, no matter like how big or small, because I have quite a few podcasts and some of them have like tiny little like strong audiences and some of them are bigger. And there's always like that thing in the back of my mind where I don't want to be one of those people that doesn't finish this thing. So at least finish it. So with 13th Cross, pretty limited as far as like what we could do, but there was always in the back of my mind that like we raised like $4,000 in crowdfunding for 13th Cross.
That's crazy.
And so it was like, it needs to come out at some point because these people helped support it. So there's that.
Did you use that as a huge motivator? Like, were there times you're just like, I can't, and then you just like, did you purposely use it, or is it just like kind of always there?
Always there.
Always there.
Yeah.
Always there. But that is.
And with that one, with 13th Cross, like the entire point of that movie for me was to make a movie. It's like I'd made a bunch of short films since I was a kid. Dozens and dozens. And usually just things to make my friends laugh. And then in film school, I decided to go all out on like a short film and like do everything I could to make like something really good. And we had a script that was very, very much liked by the faculty, or at least some of the members of the faculty. Some of them found it offensive. And we tried really hard, me and these other film school students tried really hard to make a really good short film. And I'm still pretty proud of that short film. I mean, it still has some flaws, but we did everything we could there. And it was like, and when I showed that to people that had seen my other like short films growing up, like there was definitely like a reaction to it where it was like, oh, this is like way more serious and this is way more professional. And I don't know, I felt really proud about it. And so I took basically most of the team that had worked on Emmanuel's Song, which was the short, and they were like, okay, let's make a feature, because all we have to do, the short was 22 minutes long. We just have to times it by 6 and we have a feature. Okay. So whatever the amount of work it took to make Emmanuel's Song, we just got to times it by 6 and we'll get there. And yeah, so that's what we did with 13th Cross. And so, yeah, for me, there was always the guilt there about like the people that had helped put the thing together. A lot of my podcast audience really helped out on that one. And so, yeah, of course we got to finish it. Like, even if it's junk, like you still got to finish it. I know some people that have made movies and just like, or have shot the movie and edited the movie and it's still in their back pocket like 6 years later because they're embarrassed by it or something like that. Mm-hmm. Like that'll happen, or like they don't have money for maybe a sound mix or something. I'm sure that happens all the time. Either way, it's like, well, just finish it. And then you can move on to the next thing, because the amount of things I learned a ton working on Emmanuel's Song, because that was the first time I ever had a crew. Even it's a student crew, but it's still a crew, right? Yeah. And then, or had a co-editor as opposed to me just editing it. And then 13th Cross, a whole slew of new lessons. And then with Chicken Coop, our newest film, which, by the way, guys, anybody listening to this, go to Indiegogo, search for Chicken Coop in the film section, and we are trying to raise funds for our sound mix and other finishing costs. So if anybody out there is listening to this, please, whatever you can spare, any spare change you have lying around, we could really use it for Indiegogo. You can see a trailer. We have a great cast, and yeah, it would be great if you could check it out. Melanie's been helping out a lot with the project, and anyway, we're really proud of it.
It's amazing. It's I mean, obviously I'm a fan of the 13th Cross, but this one is just wow. You every level, you just keep going up and up. So I'm really excited about this one. And yeah, go to Indiegogo because you can see like how much has already been done on it. And I know it's going to be finished. Like there's no doubt in my mind. I already know, it's going to be done. putting the finaling touches on it. So yeah, go there and check it out.
Yeah, if we raise most of that money, the movie should be finished this year and be able to be out in festivals late this year or early next year. And then the people who gave to the movie will have some sort of a private screening, probably in person and probably via Zoom or something like that. So people will be able to see it, hopefully by Christmas. Now, if we don't raise all the money, I'm going to be working for Uber on the weekends, just trying to get some extra money to pay the sound guy. So
you will too. I've seen you do stuff like that before, and it's just like, what is he doing? Like, like the question, does he sleep?
Yeah, I've actually had like this whole year, this whole year and a little bit past that, I've had this like, I have way too many things going on. It's true. It's a problem. And so I had to like really decide where my priorities like lied. And so I literally made a list of priorities of like, if I have to choose time commitment wise between two things, what will take priority? And so lately, honestly, like my number one priority is physical health. And so that's number one. Number two is like family and friend emergencies. And then right now, number three is the career. And then number four would be like quality time with family and friends. And then number five is hobbies.
Oh, man. That's
so some hobbies have gone really like as far as like my time commitment to them, I've done that. So I'm pretty proud of my system recently. Like it's been like, there's been some kinks in there where I'm like, I really need to do, I'm falling behind in this thing. But I'm like, no, it's not the priority. I've got to do this instead. So some of the podcasting stuff has been like, this week I can't do anything on the podcast basically. And it'll just have to wait till I get like a free hour. So that time commitment thing is actually like it's in the front of my mind right now.
Yeah. And that's like, that goes, your awareness around that and how you kind of analyze and adjust. And that really goes to show, I think, a lot, just paying attention to it and being honest with yourself, of asking yourself, what is it I want? Where are my priorities? I think that's a good example to a lot of us, to stop and just take that moment and realize that and put it in perspective. I think a lot of us don't do that. I think it's easy to just, I want to do this. I want to do this. And I think taking that time to really prioritize reminds us of where to put that time and be consciously aware of it. It seems so simple, but so many of us don't do it. So that's a huge takeaway I'm going to grab onto from you. I love that. I think I need to really do that as well in my life. So that's powerful stuff. I wanted to jump back into kind of like your first feature film, The 13th Cross, as far as, in your mind, it's like, okay, we just need to do this 6 times the amount of work. Looking at when you first started it, your perspective on what you were going to need, and then through the end of it, how on base were you? How off base? What things would you have wished you took into consideration, just kind of on overall whole, for maybe someone out there that's kind of thinking the same thing? Oh, I did my short. Now I'm going to go on to my feature film. I just need to do 6 times the work.
That is a tough,
Is there any
tough
one
question.
thing
It's been
that,
so
like,
long.
one lesson from it, from filming it, or from,
There's a
I
million.
don't know. Yeah, it has
A
been
million
while.
lessons. I will say, like, well, with chicken, I'll contrast this with Chicken Coop.
Okay.
Because now we know how to make a movie. Like, we know we need these deliverables at the end of the day for the distribution company at the end of it, or if we self-distribute it, we still need the same stuff, basically. So we got to work toward that. Okay, what were the problems with 13th Cross? Like, for me, like, we made that movie in a hurry because, again, we just got out of film school, and we're going to go and we're going to, and I mean shoot it in a hurry because the post-production took forever. But we were going to go, we were going to make this movie, like, no matter what. I had written it was the same team. So it was like me, my friend Parker, who was a cinematographer / editor, and then my old friend Paige, and we were all friends from film school, and we were just, that was the team, right? And so the first thing I did was like, okay, all right, guys, we're going to make a movie. And I wrote this script that just wasn't good. called The Lazy Boy. And they were like, well, this isn't it. And I was like, dang it. Okay, we'll try again. And then a few months later, I had 13th Cross. And then that was the one that people responded to. However, if I were to do it again, I would have had not just like the few drafts I did with like the couple of people in my team. I would have been working on that script for months. And going back and forth and having like readings of it, not necessarily with actors, just out loud. Like you just have a dialogue only read, and then a read where you go through the whole thing. And you know, like we had a cast reading, I believe, of the 13th Cross, and I remember we had one reading. I should have done like a million. We had one reading of it, and then I remember that was a huge lesson. I had recorded it on my like a little recorder thing. And I went back and I was just like, oh, I'm repeating myself in this scene and this scene and this scene. I keep on using like similar wording here and there. And honestly, like that helped a lot because the movie would have been a lot worse if we had just gone with the script that I had written before that reading. And then like, oh, I really should have. Okay, so number one lesson there is like do a bazillion for a writer or director, like do a million read-throughs. You will find and record it and listen back to it, and you'll find all these little issues that you would have never, even reading it out loud to yourself, which I also suggest, you wouldn't be able to find it because your like biases are there and you're not hearing it through someone else's voice. So that was one thing. It's just like spend way more time on the script. However, the caveat there is that like, well, if I spent too much time on it, if I was too precious about it, I would have never made the movie. So there is like I guess a little bit of a push and pull there. The next thing, if it were an option, we would have spent all the money on sound. I now have a new like hierarchy of like what's important in movie making. And this goes for shorts, this goes for features. Because now I spend a lot of time at little film festivals. It's like one of my favorite things to do. Met a lot of friends through the little film festivals down here in Southern Utah. And you can see, like, they'll usually have a local shorts block, and then they'll have, like, the international shorts block. And you'll see a big difference in quality, largely. And that is sound. Sound is, like, super important. My new hierarchy. Number one is the script. If the script sucks, don't make the movie. And there's a lot of I've tried to like form writers groups and stuff like that. Like you get a lot of people around that just want to cut corners and not want to work on. They don't want to do second drafts of things. And honestly, like that at least there are like two types of writers. Like there are writers that have problems finishing the first draft, and then there are writers that have problems finishing the subsequent drafts. At least with those writers, they write something. So at the very least, you know, you can give them the benefit of the doubt there. But hierarchies, number one, the script. The script's not good. The actors aren't even going to want to act in it. They're just going to want something for their reel, and that's it. But if the script is really good, you can get really good high quality talent, which is number two on the hierarchy is getting the right people for the roles, if possible. If you're in film school and you're limited, I understand. If you have no money, I also understand that. Like, so, you know, sometimes you just got to work really hard on getting local talent and scoping out local talent. And then like number three, is sound. Like if you got good performances and kind of sound, you might be able to get, if you have a short film or something, like you might be able to get into a local film festival, like a C-tier festival, have a good time, watch some movies, and make some friends. And that's perfectly acceptable. But if you want, you know, your really well written, well acted thing to shine, it needs to have good sound. And honestly, like the cinematography does not have to be good. There are plenty of old movies, like 1950s, 60s, 40s movies made from in Sweden and stuff, that although on the technical side of things are no good. Like there'll be mono sound and a lot of like dubbing over what was there, and it's got a scratchy image now. I don't know what it looked like back in the day, but now the film print is faded or whatever. But if the story is really good and the actors are really good, you can kind of get away with that. I don't remember. I've lost my point already. But and then after those top three, it's everything else, like cinematography, director style, like I don't know, like flashy editing or whatever. Everything else is way below that. So for me, that was the lesson of 13th Cross, was like realizing, you know, what was and wasn't important, and like what we had trouble with in post-production, for example, with like getting a decent sound mix, or getting like using the sound that we had, or dealing with my horrible script and dealing with
good. I love it.
and yeah, all that. And so for me, it was like, okay, we gotta, on the next movie, which is Chicken Coop, it was like, I'm not gonna make a movie until I think the script is really good. And I don't mean like, oh, this is good. I mean like most people who read it give me like big thumbs up, and people that I trust that will tell me the truth about how good or bad
before
this thing
they
is.
told you Lazy Boy was no good, you want to go to bed, right?
It must have been really bad, because I don't know. And then where was I going? I don't remember.
Well, real quick, one thing that did jump into my mind is I did want to give you and the cast of Chicken Coop a huge shout out. Like I said, I just got to sneak it in there. If you want to shout out and say, hey, I don't know if you, well, yeah, it's all public who's out there and in it, but my goodness, like I was bawling on that movie. So, and it's not even finished yet. So you've done an amazing job writing it, and with the cast that you have in there, it's just absolutely amazing.
Thank you.
And
that was my point, by the way.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. So the point was, with Chicken Coop, it's going to be the script has to be solid, and it has to be so solid that no matter who I ask to be in it, they're going to say yes.
Yep.
So like, you know, we're all in Utah here. We're not, you know, Hollywood connected, I would say. So like, what I was decided to do, I'm like, okay, I know my next movie is going to be a tiny little movie, but it's going to have the best performances and good sound. So both those things were really important to me. And so like, I spent some time, the film festivals that I go to, the little local ones, just trying to just scope out local talent and who was good. So initially I already had Eric Wood for the lead role. He did have to drop out near the end, and then we had, or near production, and then we had a wild time. But then we got Noah Krashiznik, who did an amazing job as well. And then we had Monica Moore Smith, was the first person I believe that after Eric I had approached, where I had watched a whole bunch of local films, and I was like, okay, there's pretty much like two actresses who I think are going to be able to do a good job at this role. And then we had both of them audition, and Monica got the part. She's amazing, an amazing talent. And then finding the character of Abe, the father character, oddly enough, it came from like just one of the guys who was at the festivals all the time, who I met. I just remember we watched this short where, I don't know, he just had this like, he had this like gravitas that he could like turn on. And I was like, wow, you know, Mark's a really good actor. Like, it was this friendly dude, like, that I would see at the... He
seems too friendly. I don't know why, like, it's because that personality just oozes out of him all of the time, like when you see his stuff. So yeah, it is nice to see that, like, just sudden other side. Yeah.
And I just was like, I was blown away, and I'm like, I think Mark might be up there, but I'm gonna look around a little bit just to see if there's anybody else who might be able to do the role as well. And yeah, so that was a big deal for me. It was like, we will find, if we're using local talent, we will find the absolute best people we can to play these roles, because I believe in the scripts, and I want just the best performances I could possibly have. And that was like my number one thing on the movie as a whole, is like, I'm going to work on being the best director for my actors that I possibly can. I mean, with the 13th Cross, that was a lot of like going crazy, just trying to make a movie as fast as possible.
Sun's going down.
Yeah.
Everything.
We just have no time. We're all amateurs out there making our thing. But with Chicken Coop, it was like, okay, we're going to get a bigger crew so that I do not have to worry about producing at the same time that I'm directing this movie. And I'm not going to worry about stylistically, like looking at the film, we were like, okay, we're just going to take a back seat there. We're not going to do any crazy camera moves. We're not going to make any huge, bold choices about blocking or anything like that. Is literally going to be actor focused. So I think we got straight up with all three of these actors. And I know this is tooting my own horn a little bit. I do think that this is their best performances, period, in any movie I've ever seen them in. So I'm really proud of that. I'm really glad to see them shine like I think they do in Chicken Coop.
Yeah.
I'm biased, but I think that they did an amazing job.
They absolutely did. They crushed it. Also, jumping back, kind of going into your thought process, like showing people, because now things have changed quite a bit. But when you wrote Chicken Coop and when you're planning it out, things were kind of a lot different. And so, did you want to go into like how you made a cast so small, or as far as like with COVID? Because you had mentioned before that it seemed like you wanted to limit a lot of the moving parts and being able to kind of control that to for the circumstances that might have continued forward, so that you knew you could get it done as well.
Yeah. I mean, it had just been so long since I had actually shot a movie because the post-production on 13th Cross was awful. If you want more information on that, it's literally in the credits of the 13th Cross. It'll tell you what happened. Yeah, I'm trying to, okay, so back in my headspace. So I was living in LA and I was struggling. It's a tough town to be in. The only video job I was able to get out there was for this like little political campaign. And so I was working at a grocery store, and because of the move and because of 13th Cross, I was in debt, like really bad debt. And then I had this horrible roommate with like a serious drug problem.
Oh my gosh.
And so in January of 2020, like January 1st, 2020, the day that my contract was up, I went ahead and moved into my car, and I lived in my car for 3 months. And then everything was going great, because what I was doing was like, without having to pay rent, I was just destroying the debt that I was in. And also like I was getting into like physical shape, because it was like, what do you do when you live in your car? You go to the gym and you work out and then you shower and then you go to work, like right after you go to the gym. So it was actually like awesome for me. And I was excited about it. I wasn't like forced into my car. I was like, I saw a bunch of van life videos. I saw other people in LA like living in their car. I had an old roommate that decided to live in his van for a few months. And I was like, it can be done. And so I did that. And then like my car broke down, and I had paid off a credit card, and then like the credit card company canceled the account after I had paid it off, which is crazy. I don't know why they did that. Yeah. So I didn't have, and I did not stash away cash for an emergency. So I had to call my parents and be like, help. And then they were like, you know what? You should just move back here and get back on your feet. and this was the week before COVID.
Yeah. Oh my goodness.
So a week before COVID, and my mom was watching the news. She's like, "This might blow up. We don't." So she had like some foresight into like what might happen. And yeah, I moved back home with my parents, and then COVID hit, and then suddenly like I had no job and I was at home with my parents, and like now stacking up the debt of my dad paying for my minimums on my credit cards and crap like that. So now I owed him money, but I couldn't work for a few months basically because of the situation. And all I said, I'm just going to watch movies and I'm going to write as much as I can. So Chicken Coop was, it's tough to remember what came first. I was watching a lot of Ingmar Bergman movies, which again, Swedish filmmaker. And some of his movies are literally, or one of his movies is literally two people talking in a room for 80 minutes. And his writing is so good that you don't even like, he's a wonderful filmmaker cinematically, but his writing is the best that's ever been made in all movies. So, and one of his, he made like a mini series, Scenes from a Marriage, which I believe has been remade on HBO recently, but I haven't seen it. And Scenes from a Marriage was literally 1 hour episodes of like maximum 4 scenes. And it was usually 2 to 4 people talking in a room. So it was like the least cinematic thing possible. But because his writing was so good, it didn't matter. And it didn't feel stagey either because he's a filmmaker. And so he, has a good eye, and he's putting in effort that way. So I was just like, I was really inspired by that. I was like, okay, can I like challenge myself to make a movie where there's only a couple people and it's in one location? And it was kind of perfect for the COVID thing. And even then, like, okay, the other thing I was thinking was also like, let's say we get no money for this movie. I can get Eric, my friend, and then a couple other people to like just play the parts of these things and just basically make like another practice movie with my iPhone or something like that. So I was willing to have that be like the eventual outcome of Chicken Coop. But I wrote it really quickly, and then it was a mess when I first wrote it, and then just over months and months and months, honing in on that script, getting it. I wrote it. It was like 142 pages first, which is really long for a script. And then I got it down to 90 something, and just slowly honed it in, gave it to people to read, tried to figure out like what people were attached to, what they weren't. Remember, it was like, there's 3 characters in this movie, and there was like a big arc between each one of the characters.
Oh, okay.
And one of the, and so like the ending was like a big mess. And so like one of the things that I noticed really early, like pretty early on, was like, oh, we don't really care about these other conflicts. We just care about the father and son story. Yeah. And so it became like culling back on everything else. And I mean, you were part of some of the read-throughs on the way to production. I don't quite remember where in the process, but
no, I think it's quite a bit later in it, in the process. Yeah. So it was what I saw was pretty close to what I read.
Yeah, that I think I did like 17 drafts of the script or something like that.
I could never do that. I'm one of those. I'll write one and then throw it on my shelves.
I do that when I feel like there's no potential to the script and I just needed to get like a story idea out. And it's like, I mean, I've got one that I'm one scene away from finishing another script right now. And I know it sucks. And like, it's not going anywhere. So it was like, okay, I had the idea. I was excited about it when I wrote the first act, the first 30 pages. And then I realized I don't like this movie that much. But I need to finish it. That's another.
Wow, that's awesome. That's super powerful. There's the second person I've heard that does that as a writer. So that's really
I mean,
cool.
Otherwise you get in the habit of quitting.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a little bit afraid of that. I definitely have put down projects at like the 30-page mark.
Yeah.
But yeah, tons of drafts of the screenplay, and then like different versions of it where it was like, okay, how can I hallmark this up? Because they make it like, and I was like just thinking about ways that I could get the movie made. I was like, okay, it's a family movie. And it was taking place in the summer, but I can change it to Christmas. Okay, it's a Christmas movie now. And then there was, of course, everything I write has a million F words in it. And I was like, okay, I'm just going to take out all the swearing. And there's still swearing in it now. But it's like,
That's a drastic change.
PG swearing. And then, because, lazy writers just put the F word every other word. I'm one of them. So yeah, there was a whole bunch of changes there. And I remember it was like, well, what if we could sell this like it's a Hallmark movie, but it's like an anti-Hallmark movie, because we have a 17-page argument scene at a dinner table, and that is not going to fly in a regular Hallmark movie.
No.
So it was like, well, maybe we can get away with it, maybe we can't. And then you try to get in contact with this people. We had no connections with any of those people except for one. And then we just decided when we were like, okay, do we seriously want to go down this route? Do we want to try to get financing for it? It's like, well, no. And then we decided, and then we were in crunch time. I think it was like, well, we got to film it while there's not green leaves on the trees in order for it to still be a Christmas movie. So then we were in a hurry, and then we raised funds via Kickstarter for the, which was a miracle, by the way.
Yeah, wow.
Kickstarter for the production cost of the film. Like, we knew straight up, it's like, we're not going to be able to raise everything. We just need to be able to shoot the movie. So we raised, I put in quite a bit of my own money, knowing that like right off the bat, but we were still able to raise I don't want to say how much I put in, but quite a bit.
Yeah.
We raised quite a bit from
a lot
of people.
And
yeah, I couldn't believe how much we were able to raise. I think a lot of that had to do with Monica Moore-Smith being a part of it, and that almost like legitimized it. But then for my friends and family and my contacts, I think a lot of it was also like, oh, it's a second movie. We're not just like gambling on a first movie. It's a second movie. So I think that helped. But right now we are raising funds for Indiegogo. Anybody on right now, please go check out Chicken Coop on Indiegogo. Because we need to get the sound design done for this movie in order for it to be out on time and be able to sound good in a movie theater. That's really important. So.
Yep, absolutely. So go to Indiegogo, check out Chicken Coop. If that's too much, go to Chicken Coop Movie on Instagram. Click on the link in bio. I think you have the link in your bio as well.
That's right.
So definitely go there and check out. There's cool perks in there for you as well. It's not just, hey, give us this, but definitely a movie you want to support. It's a wonderful movie, and to get the notifications of when it's coming out, all that fun stuff, and get in the screening and all that fun, good, wonderful stuff. Real quick, I just want to ask you a couple quick, just those things that I've been wanting to ask you. What is your favorite music video? Because I know you're huge into music. Is that something, I don't know if the video part of it is your thing, or if it's just more listening to it.
The video part is not my thing, but occasionally I do watch music videos, and music videos are where like a lot of experimentation lies before someone takes that same technique and puts it in like in a movie. The New Rules video by Dua Lipa, like, is it Dua Lipa? I don't remember. It's like, I've got no rules. Okay, yeah. The choreography on that is amazing. So like, as far as like new music videos that I've seen, I was like, from the filmmaking perspective, I was like, wow, they did something really cool here. Nice. I think the best music video of all time is the Hurt Johnny Cash music video.
That one was pretty good. I remember that, and I don't watch a lot of stuff.
I think there's no contest. That music video will make you cry. Like, and that's so unusual, even for a sad song. That's unusual for a music video, because I don't know, the song choice with the images and the song that they are against in there is just really just perfect. It's perfect, and it's really powerful. So I don't even know what a close second would be in my mind as far as music videos. Maybe Thriller or something like that, but
going way back there. Okay, and what's looking in the future? What's maybe the most exciting or like outdoor travel adventure that you have on? Are you thinking about anything along those lines? Because I've seen you do some pretty cool stuff. I don't know if it's something that you have like a list of or what you're shooting for, but do you have any outdoor adventures that you're looking forward to doing?
Well, I'm usually forced on outdoor adventures now.
Really?
So yeah, these aren't my choice. I work for someone else, and then they go, "We're gonna go here," and I'm like, "All right, well, I'll film you guys in the doing rim to rim in the Grand Canyon or whatever." They're doing this at my work, which is Outdoor Vitals. They're doing a 100-mile challenge where they're having a whole bunch of people come in, and they're giving them like training on how to do a whole bunch of miles and be able to complete a 100-mile through hike. And I believe they're planning on doing another 100-mile through hike in 5 days, but they're like choosing between two different places right now. So I don't know yet what that'll be or if I'll go. Last time I had to bow out early on one. I don't think I was physically 100% ready for it, because I was starting to get a lot of knee pain, a lot of hip pain, and I could not keep up with the group. Yeah. To do 100 miles in 5 days, they're basically doing.
And then you're the one carrying the stuff too?
Well, yeah, I think like also, and this will all be out in the documentary. Don't worry, very soon actually. That's what I've been working on, so you can see my entire conflict with this thing. Okay. But yeah, some of it was like I felt pressure to film all the time, and I had to stand back and then try to catch up with the guys, and then like, and we're just filming on cell phones and stuff. Like we didn't bring any real cameras, thankfully, but still, it was like the mental pressure of that was also tough. I think that was a big part of it. And then there was warnings of bad weather on the horizon, so I couldn't just like do my own hike and hang back and chill myself up in this high elevation area. I don't know, I wasn't really ready for that. So anyway, I will say the documentary for that, I'm about 2/3 of a way through a cut of that thing, and that should be out, gosh, I want to say in 4 weeks. We're going to actually have a documentary about that. You went to Highline through hike that the guys at work and myself attempted last summer. And I'm pretty excited about that one. I think I really like those. I really like editing those things together. It's like, that's one of the things I'm most proud of with my job, is that like they've been making these YouTube videos, talking heads, like just looking at the camera, giving tips about backpacking or whatever, a couple little trip videos here and there that usually didn't do that well. And I was like, well, I want to make like I want like interviews, and I cut it together as a documentary. They let me do that, and then they really liked the results of it. So it was like, yeah. So now they get excited whenever I get to do one of those things. We have one I really like, is our Grand Canyon rim to rim one. If you look on the Outdoor Vitals YouTube channel, there's one about the Grand Canyon experience. There's another one about the Appalachian Trail, in which a couple of the guys from work went and did a 100-mile section of it. And I really like those. They are totally not related to what I do as far as narrative film. Yeah. But yeah, those are probably my favorite things to make at work.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much, and I appreciate it. Do you have any other tips that you'd like to share with any other filmmakers or anything out there that maybe are sitting on the fence of whether they should go into doing it or not, and just kind of that might encourage them to move on to their dreams?
What, like people in film school? Like, what are we?
Anyone that wants to become a filmmaker, but is letting that negative self-talk kind of keep them back and hold them back?
That's tough. Like the negative self-talk that is a real problem for a lot of people. And I do see it hold back a lot of people. I think something to consider doing, and this kind of helped me out a lot, is to take one of the old school great directors, like Akira Kurosawa or something like that. Look at literally every single one of their films. Literally. And Stanley Kubrick as well. You can do this with the genius Stanley Kubrick. You watch, we'll go with Stanley Kubrick. You watch his first little like corporate documentaries he made, and you watch his very first 2 movies. They're not good. He didn't make a good movie until The Killing, which was his 3rd narrative feature film. And then, of course, like if you include his like, you know, shorts and stuff like that, it's further beyond that. There's a lot of directors who did like TV work and stuff before they had the opportunity to make like a big Hollywood film. And then what you're seeing is actually like the actual progress of the artist. You're not just gonna, I mean, even Spielberg didn't start with Jaws. He has like 5 movies before Jaws. So like literally go on their Wikipedia page and then try to find their really old stuff, and you'll realize it's okay. It's a process. Just make it as best you can for where you are now. So even if that means like if you literally cannot cobble together $1,000 and all you can do is get your like friends to act in your movies, well then do that. Or if you don't have the confidence for that, say you're want to be a director, then the best thing you can do is to learn how to write scripts, and because it costs nothing on the page. Like, and even if you bought, like I use Final Draft, which is like a $200 program, right?
Mm-hmm. A lot of people do.
Yeah, it's the program to use. You don't have to do it though for your first for your first scripts or whatever. Literally just that. You can make whatever movie you want on the page. So if you need to start there to get confidence about it, or have someone else direct, then do that. Maybe you find out that you're a writer, or maybe you find out you don't like storytelling. Like
that's an important part of it. Yeah.
There's no reason to just be like having all these daydreams about how you're this is what I see the most often, is like people will tell, oh, I want to be a Hollywood director. I want to be, you know, the next Steven Spielberg or whatever. And then they're not actually doing anything. Like, and so that, yeah, I think the easiest way to kind of get that kind of a little bit of confidence is to watch your favorite director's first crappy movies. That's kind of the best way to go. I would even say like Akira Kurosawa's first movies, like his first 10 movies, he made like 30 something movies. And I think it was like his, I don't know if Rashomon was like his 8th or 9th or 10th film, but it's far in there before like, oh, now he's like the big director, Akira Kurosawa. And Ingmar Bergman, another great director, is the same way. Alfred Hitchcock, even before The Lodger, he's got like some like not great, really not great silent films. Like The Ringer is a terrible movie. And just like accept the fact that as an artist, you just need to make art and make it the best you can for the time, in whatever part of your life that you're in. I think Chicken Coop is way better than 13th Cross, like way better. But I needed to make 13th Cross, and I needed to make all those dumb short films, and I needed to write. 13th Cross is my 6th feature screenplay, so I needed to write a lot of like terrible screenplays in order to just work the creative muscle. It's a muscle. You're like working out. Like writing to me is like working out. It's like, okay, I must do at least a page a day, or whatever the page count is for whatever my goal is. It's like I must do this, and I just put it down, and it's just crap on the first draft, and that's fine. I just have to, like, now at this point now, And I realize it's hard to see that when you're 19 or whatever. It's like you just realize that it's a process, and you're just, and I guess you can just enjoy the process. There you go. That's everybody says that, but it's true.
It's so
it's
true. And you discover how true it is when you actually start doing it.
Yeah.
And you know, I don't know if you know this, but I'm a big fan of yours, as far as, you know, ever since I got to work with you, all of the things that I've noticed that I see out there that you do, I really truly, I'm a big believer in you are who you surround yourself with. And I'm not saying I'm in your circle or anything like that, but I also think that that's very important of the content that you consume, who you listen to, who you watch, and who you observe. And I watch a lot of your stuff and kind of try and pay attention to your processes. So that's really important, and I appreciate that on many levels. And anyone watching this, like, go watch his stuff. Go watch what he does. Like, you watch movies all the time. You share. You go out there. You do different things. You try different things. And so I really appreciate that you do that. I know it's not always easy, and I know you need to prioritize things for you, but I do appreciate the things that you put out there for others to consume. And I know it's not just for others. You're doing it for yourself and that as well. But I appreciate that very much. So thank you so much for coming on here and sharing that.
Thank you. Appreciate all that. I don't take compliments well, by the way. I hate them.
I see you welcoming it, not welcoming, but allowing.
But I do appreciate it. I do want to add one. There is a book called, and I listen to this like twice a year. It's called Art and Fear.
I don't know.
Art and Fear. If you are someone who is struggling with like the confidence to make something again, or the confidence to make something at all, that book is all about like an artist just makes things. Like, there's this great, one of my favorite things about this book, it's like these two like art teachers, one's like a photography teacher, one's like a pottery teacher. And they made this book about just art making for non-geniuses, basically. And just, I love every single sentence of that book, but there's like one part, which is the parable of the pots. And you can see this a lot, by the way, if you just are paying attention to not Hollywood, but to local filmmaking, and you're actually seeing like ground up, like the levels where everybody's at, you know. The parable of the pots is that there's this pottery teacher who splits their class in two. And for one half of the class, to say you're going to be graded on your best pot at the end of the semester. For the other half of the class, you're going to be graded on the amount of pots you make. We're going to weigh all the pots. And then, of course, by the end of the semester, the story is that the people who made a whole bunch of pots made way better pots than the people who were like, had to be basically precious about the single great pot they had to make for this class. That really is it. It's like, just make things. Like, just keep going. And 80% of what you make is going to be crap. And be okay with that.
Learning to embrace that myself. Yeah. That's awesome. I love that story. I'm going to get it. I haven't even heard of that book, and I love reading. So
no, I love that book. I think I heard it in a interview with Robert Rodriguez, a great hero for independent filmmakers, by the way. Go check out all his interviews and his books and stuff like that.
Awesome.
But he recommended Art and Fear, and I was like, okay, I'll get it. And then I listened to it. It was like life-changing. It was a wonderful, wonderful book. And I listened to it like all the time. And all my artist friends I've given to, and they've a lot of similar reaction, being like, this is perfect. Like, there's some like art making books, like Stephen King's On Writing, or like Big Magic is one that I listened to, and it just did not, for me, it wasn't practical enough. But this one is like I don't know. It's super short too. It's audio. The Audible version is like 4 hours.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So, but it's filled with just every line in there is just filled with so much wisdom, and it's really invigorating to listen to. So, Art and Fear, highly recommend it. And also, guys, one more plug for Chicken Coop Indiegogo campaign. for the finishing costs on the movie, the sound design especially. Go check that out. And yeah, thank you for having me on, Melanie. It was good to talk to you.
Thank you so much, and thank you for sharing some of your very precious time with me. Have a great night, everyone. Go to Chicken Coop, throw in some bucks. I would also greatly appreciate it if you do that. So thank you so much. All right, everyone. Thanks for watching. Thank you, Joseph.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.